Yeah, no. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Became so good at this.
Yeah,
Huh?
You're
sure.
very good at this.
He's a professional.
He is a professional, you know.
Yeah,
What would we do without Mario?
I know. We better
Yeah.
appreciate him. You better appreciate him. You give him a raise too.
Absolutely. Yaakov, what do you say? Yaakov's the chief. He can decide.
I'm all for giving you a raise.
Okay.
A raise, absolutely.
Okay. Mario, you just got a raise.
Okay.
Heck, I'll double the raise.
Okay.
High heels.
Okay.
Where are we? Which page? I think it's 124, but I'm not sure. I'll come back in 1 second.
Is Ernie? Is he back? We are at 124 this Sunday. I think. What happened to Ernie?
Okay, very good. Good evening, everybody. Okay. So we're starting the Dinim of Kaddish,
What page is it?
page 151.
Oh, boy, I was behind.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, gentlemen.
It's
124.
124.
124.
Yeah.
I thought
You're
so.
jumping the gun over here, Ernie. You must have learned it before already.
Sorry, 124. Shir Shal Yom.
Mhm.
We did Aleinu. We learned, oh yeah. Oh, I left everybody with a challenge. Why do we say Aleinu by a bris? And why do we say Aleinu by Kiddush Levavah? So I want to hear what everyone else has to say, but I want to bring my own sources because there's a very interesting source. 1 second.
Ernie,
Ernie went to go get his safer.
you get his safer. Okay.
He has his answer for Elaine, he wants to hear what ours is.
See here, no. But
He's
he comes
back.
here too, but he do things like North Carolina.
Okay, so did anybody want to make any comments?
Just we learn our Aleinu from where? We learn it out from
From Yoshua.
Yeshua, right? We learned that. We learned it out from Yeshua. So when you see a great thing happen, right, like the hischachut of the new moon, which is a hischachut, a new beginning, and maybe when you see a baby, a bris, that's also a new beginning. So when you see hischachut, so when you see something special, so you say Aleinu, maybe that has to do with it.
Okay,
So you're not makabel. That's okay.
I am a Kabel.
Walter, that is what I was gonna say.
I am a Kabel.
I vote for yours on this one. We both may be wrong, but I like it.
Yeah.
By the way,
Okay.
there is no wrong or right here. There is no wrong or right here.
It's a certain, Yeshua said it because he saw something which was miraculous. So when you see the new moon, you know that it's a miraculous thing, that it changes, that we have a chance every month to be Makadesh the Levana, and then that you're not Makadesh anything else. And then when you see a baby, you know that the future, right? It's got to do with the future. Where I guess when Yeshua saw what happened afterwards in Jericho, so he saw that the future looked bright, perhaps. So I mean, he saw that, and there was a chance. They were going into Eretz Yisrael. This was their chance.
New
What
beginning.
about Yom Kippur?
New
What about
beginning.
Yom Kippur also, we said?
Also a new beginning.
So
Okay.
I'm bringing you a couple of answers from our good friend Ratzka Tzvi Reisman he has Baruch Hashem 18 different Ratzka Tzvis. This is one called Yerach Etanim, which has a lot of pieces on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So he has a piece on Aleinu, and he quotes that he talked about this issue with the Avram Cohen. Now, Avram Cohen gave one of the Haskamas in my Sefer of Kal Hashem. I know him very well. He comes every year, he visits. He's a Rosh Kol of Nishmas, what's it called? Nishmas Avram? No, it's in Bayit Vagan, a very nice kol that he's the Rosh Kol over. So he says that Yoshua was Masakin Aleinu. That there was a lot of avodah zarah in Eretz Canaan, and part of it was a tefillah by Yoshua that they should not be influenced. That's why v'lachen hidgish et hashvach shelo asinu v'lasanu kegoya arotzos v'lasamanu k'mishpachos hadama kedei lo tzem libim shel atoim v'atoim sheyesh koichos achem v'laso yizbarach. So the Bnei Yisrael shouldn't fall into the trap of believing that other people have powers. So B'kach Yisbir Rav Koines Minag Amiras Aleinu la'achar bris milah ki achar shemalin tinek u'moitzin dam. They take blood from a child. Efshar chas v'sholom litois achar avodah zara shaya behem kama tzur shel avodah b'hariga. There were avodah zaras. In voodoo, right? They killed chickens. They killed people. Sreifa v'yitzaz dam. Lachen tiknu loymar miyad achar habris alenu shabeach kedei shelo yuvu litos achar inyanim v'kochot acherim. And similarly, by Kiddush Levana, even Shekiddush Levana mavarchim bachutz barabim. Can you imagine we're all outside on La Brea and we're staring at the moon and we're dancing under the moon, right? People umakachinas Levana b'chidusha efshar litos sheyesh koch atzmi. People will think some kind of avodah zarah here. Same thing, shelo yitu, they said this din of Aleinu. Then they bring, by a bris, the sandik is considered like he's the mizbeach. Shasanik neshav kemaktir toiris. When you hold the child, in a sense, he's acting like the mizbeach. So Mitzvah
But
Smila.
you know why it's considered like acting like the Mizbeach? Because the child is kulo tahor. And the tahara of the child transfers when the sandak holds it. I learned the whole inyan on this. When the sandak holds the child, that inyan of tahara transfers to the sandak. So he becomes like the Mizbeach, kulo tahara, and that's why it's considered.
So the Gra says, Duhu dome la korban, the child, like a korban, Kemosha Kosav Bezoyar, Sof Parshas Lech Lecha, and Rabbeinu Bechai. Right? The Rabbeinu Chai says Beferish there in Bracious. Valdercha Medrash Mitzvahs Mila Hikinyan Korban. Shem Shadama Korban Lechapar Al Mizbeach, Kach Dama Mila Mechaper. So Shema Achar Yesh Bris Mila Bechina Shalak Kravas Korbanos. And they brought rayas that Aleinu is also a tefillah of kapara, that Yesh Lomer Aleinu Shabech Lachar Bris. That's what the Ramos says. The Aderes, who was the father-in-law of Rav Kook, has another concept that Nisraviv Aminik Me'aza Hunag Shiyu Kol Abris Mila Bevesa Knesses. Milot used to be in shul. But they would bring the child before Aleinu. And therefore, the meaning was to, and the same thing, Kiddush Levana was done right after shul. I think somebody mentioned this last week as a thing.
That wipes out your whole, then it's the minhag, because the minhag was to say Aleinu. That wipes out your whole sport.
No, so it's not. I just said I wanted to bring the Rav Kook about Avodah Zarah, that the Mila and the Kiddush Levana, you could be confused with Avodah Zarah.
But if you just said that, say this answer now that you said, because it was in the shul, therefore they brought it in before Aleinu.
That's a very practical answer. It's just
the same thing you're saying about Kiddush Levana, so that wipes out the whole.
Right, there's no svara.
There's no svara.
There's no svara. Okay, anyways,
and that could be the case too. We just find
and it could be the case, and we're reading a Rhina svara where it may just be practical what was done.
Sounds like the usual stuff.
Okay. Anyways, I thought it might be, once we were dealing with Aleinu, we don't always discuss that. Okay. So 124. By the way, I want to give a Yasher Koach, a shout out to our participant, Cy Litwin. He organized a softball game in the Valley Sunday morning. It was a lot of fun. Give a big Yasher Koach. And we should keep on doing it. Hala v'hala.
Thank you, Ernie. Thank you. Thank you. We're still in one piece.
Okay. Shir Shal Yom was recited daily by the Levim in the Beis HaMikdash. Each day of the week had its own particular shir, recited at the time of the Nisuch Hayayin, which was offered in both the morning and the evening. So there was wine libation offered with the korban oilas haboiker v'oilas hatomid in the afternoon. There was wine also poured, and remember we poured water only on Sukkos, Nisuch Hamayim, but yayin was poured every day. And while the wine was poured, that's when the Levium sang. The Mishnah and Talmud list the psalm recited on each day of the week, and the Gemara Rosh Hashanah explains the connection between each capital and the dates recited. Tanya, Rav Yehuda ben Mishram of Akiva, Berishon Mayu Oimrim, Lashem Haaretzum La'a, Al Shem Shekana v'Hikna v'Shar B'Lama. Kodesh Baruch Hu was koina his universe, and he rules over it. B'Sheni Mayu Oimrim, Monday, Gadol Hashem U'Molam Ma'od, Al Shem Shechilek Masav U'Malach Aleim. Remember, there's a Maya Maya Yoini, Maya Matachtonim. The second day, there's a division. So he's choilek and rules. B'shlisha Yoimrim Elokiv Nitzav Ba'adas Kel Al Shem Shegila Oretz B'Chachmaso V'Hechin Tevel Adaso. He revealed the Chokhmah, or he revealed the land in his wisdom, and prepared the world for his assembly that could now live on dry land. On that day, the fourth day, Hashem made the sun and the moon. Eventually, he's going to have to punish those people throughout the generations who worship the sun and the moon. So that's the Kel Nekamas. The Chamisha Yoimim Arninu Larokimu Zenu. Al Shem Shabara Oifes V'Dogim L'Shabech Shmo. He created birds and fish who praise his name. B'Shishi Yoimim Hashem Melech Geus Lavish. Al Shem Shegomar Malachto U'Malach Alein. He finished the creation and ruled over it. B'Shvi Yoimim is Marshilim HaShabbos Yom Shekol HaShabbos. Rashi. What does it mean? Al Shem Shekana, Hashem acquired the universe. And what do you mean v'hikna? And he gave it over to someone. Hikna tevel yoshveva. He was maknet to those that live in the land. He acquired it in order to be maknet to somebody else. And then shechilik masav, he divided his creation. Hivdil rakia bein elyonim l'tachtoinim. The upper and lower heavens were divided. Vinis ala v'yosher b'morom. And Hashem kivyachol rose, and he sat in the upper world. Dugma shichno be'irov har kocho. As we say, his Shechina dwells in his city, Yerushalayim, and on his holy mountain. And on the third day, he uncovered the ground, Moka Matzav Adaso, where his flock will reside. Shenemar, Vatera'aya Basha, that's Bashlishi Nemar. That the dry land was seen on the third day. And on the fifth day, Bara Oifes V'Dogim L'Shavech Shmo, Kisha Adam Roya Oifes Meshunim, Zemizen Noisin Shvach L'Mishabot. When a human being sees the wondrous different species of birds or fish, I guess, and they're so unique and different from each other, he gives praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yom Shekol HaShabbos, She'asir Olam Lios Charev, that there's going to be a time of, 6,000 years the world is created. In the seventh, for 1,000 years, the world will be destroyed. There won't be any people there, and there will be no work. I'll also Yom Omim Shel Shabbos. On that day, we'll see this from Shabbos. See Ben Yehoyada, I'm reading footnote 31, who interprets this passage to mean that the world and humanity will not retain any of their current physical form. Rather, everything will be transformed into a purely spiritual form. Okay. It is customary to mention Shabbos in the opening of each day's Shir Shel Yom. This is based on the Ramban in his commentary on the Torah, who writes that the pasuk, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, includes remembering Shabbos every day of the week. That's why we say Hayom Yom Rishon b'Shabbos, Hayom Yom Sheni b'Shabbos. We mention Shabbos. The Ramban in Shmos quotes the Mechilta, Rabbi Yitzchak Omer, will say, Moine kederech shacheri moinim. Don't count Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's how other people do it. Elatei monin l'shem Shabbos. We count toward Shabbos. Uperusha. Shagoyim moinim yimei hashavua l'shem hayomim atzmam. The Goyim give every day of the week its own name. Monday, Tuesday. Yikru l'chol yom shem b'fnei atzmo. All shmos ha-meshorsim. Some of the days were given names, like Sunday was Sun's Day. Monday is Moon's Day. O shmos acherim shikru lahem. Kenotzrim, like the Christians, or certainly July is Julius Caesar. Augustus is Augustus Caesar. That was Roman. And I guess the Christians continued it. V'yisrael monim kol yom l'shem Shabbos. But Jews count towards Shabbos. Echad b'Shabbos, sheni b'Shabbos. Ki zu min hamitzvah shenitztavinu bo l'zochro tamid b'chol yom. In that way, we fulfill the obligation of remembering Shabbos every day. Okay. Now, Pitum Aktoiris, we Ashkenazim do not end every day's tefillah with it, but in Eretz Yisrael they do. Even the Ashkenazim do. And we end Shabbos with Pitum Aktoiris. So another one of the sections recited towards the end of the tefillah is Pitum Aktoiris, which details the method and different spices used to form the incense offered daily in the Beis Hamikdash. The text is mostly taken from a passage in Gemor Krisus, and it is customarily introduced with the paragraph known as Ein Kelokei. According to the Noda B'Yehuda, Noda B'Yehuda lived in Prague, late 1700s. The reason for reciting Ein Kelokei is that since the incense results in wealth, one might think my power and the might of this hand has got me this wealth. Therefore, we proceed with Ein Kelokenu, in which we say that everything we receive comes from Hashem. Particularly, I guess, towards the end of davening, when we're about to go out and earn our living. Those who use Nusach Sfard or Nusach Edot HaMizrach recite Pitum Aktoris every day. At this point, in addition to reciting it in the Korbanot section, before Psukei Dezim. Most people in Eretz Yisrael, even Ashkenazim, also recite it daily, regardless of which Nusach HaTfilah they use. However, most of those who use Nusach Ashkenaz in the Golah do not recite it every day, but only on Shabbos. What is the basis for this difference in custom? Let us examine the next few sources to discover the answer. According to the Zohar, there's great importance to the recitation of Pitum Aktoris due to its exemptional influence in heaven. Rab Shimon, if the people knew how great the offering of Torahs before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they would take every word, and they would put every word of this parsha on their head like a golden crown. Somebody should have proper kavana, and if he does, he'll have a chelik in this world. That means he'll have a lot of parnasa, and in the next world, Yisalik Mustamine, death will be removed from him, umikol alma, from the world. And he will be saved from bad judgments of this world. Bishin, Medina de Gehenim, negative effects, the laws of Gehenim, and Medina de Malko Achbar, and from, I guess, problems with government. If you remember, during the pandemic, there was a minute to say Pitum Aktoris because it's specifically against epidemics. And people had accustomed to say the Pitum Aktoris on a daily basis, even in Chutz La'aretz. So given the great significance of Pitum Aktoris, it's logical that some Rishonim treated its recitation very seriously. The Beis Yosef cites Rav Yitzchak Abuav, known as the Mari Abuav, who contends, based upon the Orchas Chaim and the Bahag, right, the Baal Halachas Gedolos, that Pitum Aktoris should only be recited from a written text. Since the Gemara in Krisus, that serves as the basis for the text, states that one is liable to heavenly death for omitting one of the spices in the mixture, Maria Boav suggests that even one who omits mentions of any spices in the recitation of Pitum Aktoris would be subject to a similar punishment. Therefore, one should be careful to recite it from a written text to ensure that this does not occur. The Maria Abuav also comments that perhaps this is the reason that Pitum Aktoris is Bichlal not recited in some places. The Beis Yosef rejects this, as in his opinion, the caution is only for preparing and offering the incense in the temple. And even if it is necessary to recite all the spices properly, it is easy to ensure that they are not omitted. Because of Rabbeinu Agadol, this is the Beis Yosef, Rav Yosef Karo writing, he quotes the Mari Abuav, She'ein Lomar Pitum Maktoros Lo Mitoch HaKsav. Because Shemayachzer Echad Masamonim, he'll miss mentioning one of the spices, V'yechayv Misa B'kriya Kamo Bakter. Maybe you'll be Chayv Misa, just like if you miss one of the spices and you offer it, your Chayv Misa may be the same for Kriya. Ulaish Mizeh Tameinomim also B'miktas Bekomos. Perhaps this is the explanation for why some minhagim is not to say it. Aval B'shoimim Parshas HaKarbonos, even though they do recite the Parshas HaKarbonos, Hein Divrei Ochos Chaim Shekazim Shem Abal Halachos. But Vani Oimer Im Halacha Nekabel. If it's a accepted halacha, we'll accept. Aval Im Ledin, if it's just through svara yesh tshuva, we can respond to the svara. Da b'chisar echad mesamaneh chayv misa. Perish Rashi chayv misa ki ayal b'yom kippurim. That when you entered the Kodesh Kodashim Yom Kippur with the Ketores, that's the liability for death if you leave out a spice. And if you bring in the Ketores not properly made, it's a bia rekonisi. It's a empty coming into the Kodesh. What the Beis Yosef is trying to say is, you were not Chayv Misa because you left out one of the spices. You were Chayv Misa because you walked into the Kodesh Kodashim with the Ketores that was prepared with one spice less. So it's not just offering the incense on the Mizbeach. Or you can say that the Chayv Misa is when you're maktir the Ketores. The Beis Yosef here is following the opinion of the Rambam that only one who offers incense that was not prepared properly is liable to death. The Sefer HaChonech claims that even one who prepares incense properly is liable to death, meaning if you just prepared it and you left out one of the spices, you're chayiv. The Rambam says, no, it's only if you offer it. But the Beis Yosef is querying the Mari above. Where did you find that by reciting the Pima Akhtars and you left off one of the Simonim, you're going to be Chayv Misa? I already proved above. It's only if one of the 11 spices was left out. So first of all, a person can be very careful not to leave out any of the words of the spices. People should not refrain from saying Pita Maktoros because of worry of this issue. The Ramah cites the differing views regarding reciting Pita Maktoros daily, concludes that it is customary not to recite on weekdays due to concern for omitting words. So now we know that we follow the Ramah, we Ashkenazi, that the reason we don't say Pita Maktoros on a daily basis is because he's choishish for this issue of the omission of words. There are those who say it every day. The Shir Shal Yom is only said in the morning. There are people who warn to only read it. Today, reading the words takes the place of offering it. We're concerned you'll skip one of the spices. And the Torah says, if you leave out one of the spices, people are quick to leave shul in the morning. They have to get to work. So they're concerned that people are going to skip it or skip words. So we just medalig it. The Mishnah Berurah cites the Mogen Avram, who notes the opinion of the Beis Yosef that one should recite it daily. The Mishnah then recites that those reciting on Shabbos alone should make sure to recite it from the text of the Siddur. Shema Yedaleg, Beis Yosef afakbik b'zeh, The Beis Yosef was not that concerned about missing words. The death penalty was only when you offered the Torah that was deficient, and not just by reciting it. First of all, someone's going to skip a word, didn't do it b'mezi, did it b'shogeg. And there's never death penalty if somebody does something b'mezi, unless they do it b'mezi. So the Magen Avraham brings that the people who are medagdek do say it every day. People don't know the words, it doesn't skip off the tongue easily, so they should read it mitoch hasidim. The Yalkut Yosef writes that the Sfardim should recite Pita Maktoris every day. Yesh Lomar v'choyom Pita Maktoris shachris u'mincha. V'oimrim tchila ein kelokeinu. Kosav ataz, Shamiris ein keloenu, mo'ila lashli mea brachos b'chol yom. That because remember, you have to say 100 brachos every day. And sometimes it's hard, but each, I guess, Elokeinu is going to count as the name of Hashem. Because that's in a case where you cannot actually recite 100 brachos. You should read it. But he says this is not an issue. If you skipped a word, it's not a problem. Thus, the custom of those who do not recite Pita Maktoris during the week follows the Ramah, while the custom of those that do recite it daily follows the Beis Yosef and the Yalkut Yosef, and the scrupulous individuals mentioned by the Magen Avraham. What if you have to leave before the end of Tefillah? In general, you should avoid leaving the shul before the tzibur finishes the complete Tefillah. Even in situations where one must leave early, the Shulchan Aruch writes that one may not leave before Uval Etzion. Like we learned last week, how important the saying the Kedusha there in the Uval Etzion is. The Mishnah Berurah explains that due to its importance, leaving before the tzibur is recited Kedusha Desidra together would be considered degrading. The Mishnah Berurah adds that one should not leave before Uval Etzion, even if one recites the sections at the end of the davening oneself. The Kivin da Olam Iskayim al Zeh, we brought comments that the whole universe, the world, is maintained because of the Kedusha Desidra. Tzarech lizar mizilzah, you should not be mizalzel and leave. L'fi mashbi'ar le'el, the nachal la'adil la'omer b'tzibur, you should always try to say this as a tzibur. Memela tzarech lizar shalom lotzis b'kodim. If you're going to leave, you're going to miss out saying with the tzibur. Afilu mirtzel la'omer v'natzbur, even though he's going to say it privately, im lo b'shasatcha. Except, of course, if an emergency comes up, then you have to do that. The Piskei Teshuvos expands on the importance of completing the tefillah together with the congregation, and writes that one should ideally not leave the shul before the end of the tefillah without a pressing reason. Even after Uval Etzion, ein lotzis Pesach Teses, Admar Tefillah, u'shmias hakadeshim, listening to the kadishes that are recited. How about this? You should listen to the kadeshim while wearing your tefillin. That's not a common practice, right?
We also learned in a previous session that it's also, you could wait a little bit after taking off your phone before you leave.
There you go. So now, very often the people saying Kaddish are still wearing their tefillin. It's very common that people start removing their tefillin right after Uval Etzion. Some do it, I see, after Uval Etzion. So, Lachen yira adam la'argil atzmo li'shor b'beis hakneses ad gmar kol hatfilah v'kadeshim. Zulat ba'kroi, except an unusual machmasiba nechutza. You've got some important reason. V'gam az yira la'ashlim la'atzmo achar kach seder hatfilah. if you leave early, you should finish the davening by yourself. Umisha ozeves beis hakneses kodim gmar tefillah b'kviyus. If he does this on a regular basis, v'shelo machbas onis kimat nemer alav v'ozvei Hashem yichlu rachmanim itself. Yikes! I won't even translate that part. You can see it. What I think is valuable in the learning this week is even on Shabbos, when we see the importance of Pitum HaKtoros. And in Shabbos, also, it's towards the end of davening. Oftentimes, the rabbi's already given his speech. And people are also mezalzel and Pitum HaKtoros. People are walking out.
What's Kedusha, the Siddur again?
Uval Tzion, saying the Kaddish during Uval Tzion.
Or the sitting one?
Correct.
But, okay.
Yeah. Last week, we learned all about that last week or the week before? Last week. Okay. So it's just Pitum HaKtoros is an important tefillah. You see many places in the Jews say it every day. So here we're only saying it once a week. So we should have in mind to say Pitum HaKtoros properly, give it the proper covet. The Yalkut Yosef also come. Now, I don't think our Gabbai Chaim has reminded me that we have concluding tefillos. We're not going to learn about them. For example, on Shabbos, we say Adon Olam. Or Friday night, you say Yigdal. What is this all about? All of a sudden, we threw a tefillah in there. That it was dafka put in there for people not to leave the davening. That it's also annoying that you should be sitting with your talis during Adon Olam before you leave. And it was actually put there on purpose as a very important tefillah. We're talking about the master of the universe. If you see the words of either Yigdal or Adon Olam, and they were put there because they knew that the nature of things is for people to want to get out of shul quickly. But it was actually put there that should be said as a full tefillah with full talis, and we don't wear tefillin on Shabbos, but that you should be in shul until the end of Adon Olam.
The Tzurba all have it at the very beginning.
So you say that too.
Why are you repeating?
So Bernie asked, it's there in bracha. So Eina Chanami, it's part. There's like what Yaakov Yellen said tonight. There isn't just a concept of sitting in shul a little bit after you finish davening, because the Gemara says Chasidim Arishonim used to sit an hour before davening. They would daven an hour, and they would sit an hour after davening. So Bernie asked, what about the Adon Olam that we say in brachas? Why we read in Echanami? That's the Batovu, and that's supposed to prepare you for that. That's like sitting for a period of time before you daven. And they dafka put it again at the end of the davening so that you would not rush out, that you would say it as a tzibur, davening, same thing. The Yalkut Yosef also comments unfavorably about those individuals who recite Aleinu as they exit the shul. This is mainly Sfardim, in which Aleinu is the last section. And they sort of transform it into a Tfilas HaDerech. Also, he says people are pushing to get out of the shul while they're saying Aleinu. Lo yofei moisim, they're not doing nice. They're acting as if like being in shul is a burden. Especially those that are walking out already in the middle of Aleinu. While they're walking. Even if they're running out to yeshiva or to a shiur. So in addition to the issues raised with leaving the davening early, another challenge pertains to removing one's tefillin early. According to the Shulchan Aruch, one should not remove one's tefillin before reciting Uval Tzion. The Ramah writes that some mention a further Kabbalistic custom not to remove tefillin before reciting the first mourner's Kaddish after Aleinu. Minig is for people to take off their tefillin after Vatzion. Says the Ramah, Yesh Misha Kosav al Tzaddik Kabbalah, Sholach Latzat Sha'amar Bam Shalosh Kedushos Varba Kadeshim. That we say 3 Kedushos. The 3 Kedushos are the one we say in Birchos Kriya Shema is 1. The Kedusha that we say during Shemona Esrei is 2. The Kedusha we say in the Valutzion is 3. That's the Shalosh Kedushas. The Arba Kadeshim, well, we can go through them. The Hainu La'achar Kaddish Yosem. And we say Kaddish before Baruch Hu. We say the Chatzi Kaddish before Ashrei. We say Kaddish Tiskabel after, right before Aleinu. And then you say the Kaddish Yosem, that's the 4 Kadeshim. V'achi noagim hamedagdikim. Says the Shulchan Aruch. Of course, when we lane Kriyas Torah, we have another Kaddish. V'yom sheyesh po Sefer Torah, noagim shol l'chalza mat sheyachzu Sefer Torah v'yanichu be'echel. Remember, they Nusach Sfard, they say Asher Valetzion while the Torah is being held. And then after Valetzion, they go back and they bring the Sefer Torah back. That's Nusach Sfard. So he warns them not, wait till then. It says the Ramav Ainu b'makom shemachnisim mator lachor Valetzion goyal. Minhag medinos elu, our minhag. The Ramah lived in Krakow. Ramah is talking about European, Poland, Germany, France, right? Russia. You should take them off after that 4th Kaddish. It's really the 5th Kaddish on that day because there's a Chatzi Kaddish said then as well. Now, the Mishnah Berurah suggests, I knew the Mishnah Berurah was, he'll jump on this. The Mishnah Berurah suggests that Ramah's mention of 3 instances of Kedusha and 4 instances of Kaddish should actually be reversed to read 4 instances of Kedusha and 3 of Kaddish. In addition, the Mishnah Berurah cautions against removing one's tefillin and folding one's talis while responding to Kaddish. So so technically you should wait at least until the Kaddish after Aleinu before taking off your tefillin, according to Nusach Ashkenaz the Ramah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Shalosh Kedushos Tohu Sofer. It's a printer's error. Uve'emes tzarich lomer Shalosh Kadeshim v'arba Kedushos. Let's see how the Mishnah Berurah figures this out. He says, Ki Baruch Hu es Hashem nechshav chada. He wants to say that Baruch Hu is also a Kedusha. Sheyeh davar shebekdusha. Ukedusha sof of ruah, right? That's kadosh kadosh there during Birchas Kriya Shema Shniya. Ukedushas Amida, Kedushas Valetzion, that's 4. Ushlosha Kadishim hu Chatzi Kaddish Shekorim Baruch Hu, Chatzi Kaddish Shachar Tfilas Yud Ches. The Kaddish Shalom Shachar Valetzion, that's 3. So how did I fuff? I must have just done 3 and 3. I didn't calculate 4.
You did 4 the first time.
No, but it's not. We don't have 4. We talked about the one before Baruch Hu, the one after, one right before Ashrei, and the one after Shemona Esrei. Okay. Now remember, on Monday and Thursday you will have 4, because there's a Chatzi Kaddish said after laning. Anyways, Mikol Malko Mashma Miprim and Godim, B'Shar Achroni B'Makom Yishnogim Lomer Kaddish Yosem B'Chol Yom Achar Aleinu. In those Makoimois that there's a Kaddish recited every day after Aleinu, Tov Shelo Lachlotz Ad Achar Kaddish Yosem. You should not. So the Mishnah Berurah also says you should not take your tefillin off until after the recitation of Kaddish Yosem after Aleinu. Ve'anoshim shenogim lekapel atalis for tefillin lanichan betikin. Those that are winding up their talis and tefillin, put them in the sacks. It's not proper. You have to have kavanah when you say Amen Yesh Me'Rabba. Kimavur lekaman, as we're going to learn later on. B'simin nun vav, b'tur, v'shulchan aruch. V'amen yesh me'rabba, hu od rega gva yotzer mikedusha. Yesh me'rabba is a higher level than kedusha. So we talked about the arba kedushos, if you include Baruch Hu, shalosh kadeshim, and the shalosh kadeshim have yesh me'rabba, which are higher than kedusha. As the Mogen Avram says in Sivkot Nalo, Uvade legor mishar brachos d'Rabbanan. It's certainly no worse than a bracha d'Rabbanan to otzer lasos afilu tash mishkal b'shashu mavorech. You make a bracha on a cookie, or shakol ni'ebidvoro. These are all birchos d'Rabbanan. You cannot be doing other things when you make those brachas. As we're going to learn, Mirza Hashem, about when we learn brachos, about regular brachos, we're going to learn about this concept that you can't be doing something else while you're making a bracha. Let's read the footnote 37. See Mishnah Berurah 31:7 who writes that some people who don tefillin chol hamoed have the custom to remove them during chazaras hashatz. Anybody here wear tefillin during chol hamoed? I don't. But there's usually some Ashkenazim who do. Anyways, the Mishnah Berurah does not criticize them, but merely writes that they should make sure to listen carefully to the repetition. If so, then perhaps it is possible to remove one's talis and tefillin and still pay close attention to chazaras hashatz and possibly Kaddish as well. This could serve as a possible defense for the practice of those who remove their talis and tefillin during Kaddish, or wrap their tefillin during chazaras hashatz of Musaf on Rosh Chodesh, at least in cases of need, like they got to leave quickly, provided they simultaneously listen carefully to the chazan. Nevertheless, such a practice does not appear to be recommended, since that leniency may only happen on Chol HaMoed, where there's no other possible time to remove the tefillin before Hallel. Plus, the Mishnah Berurah here and elsewhere does not mention it. Okay.
There were one or two people that did put on Polamoid, and he had them go into that other side room, so that if somebody entered, they wouldn't think that was our minhag to put it on. So they couldn't.
That's because of agudos. Saul Bernstein was saying that at Shar Tefillah, Rabbi Kesselman during Chol HaMoed, if somebody wears tefillin, he has them go into a different room, so that it shouldn't be agudos. You shouldn't think that a shul has conflicting minhagim. Rabbi Krause would make sure, because there were people, the Oberlander in our shul the people who came from Pressburg would wear tefillin, like Robert Klein and what's his uncle or his cousin Reichman. Brother-in-law. So the Oberlander do put on tefillin chol hamoed. He would be makbid that they shouldn't daven for the Amud, for the same concept, that it's not the meaning of this, not to say that we shouldn't have agudos. What were you saying, Bernie? No. What about women at the end of the tefillah? The Tzurba M'Rabanan are always trying to include our better halves in these halachic discussions. Let's see what they find out here. Piskei Tshuva writes that women are not technically obligated to recite the end of the tefillah from the second Ashrei onwards. This is true even according to the opinions that obligate women to recite Shachris. Says the Piskei Tshuva, they don't have to do it, but there's a minhag that they recite it. The reason that women may not be obligated in these sections is that they are exempt from the mitzvah of Torah study, which relates to Uvalut Sion, and offering korbanos, which relates to the Shir Shal Yom, and Pitum HaTorahs. Nevertheless, many women do recite these sections, since the Kaf HaChaim writes that women who are capable customarily recite the entire order feel like men. We're going to finish with a machshava concept from the Aruch HaShulchan. What is the thematic connection between Lam Natsech and Uvalet Zion? The Aruch HaShulchan explains that the two sections offer an overview of the whole process of suffering and redemption for the Jewish people. Says the Aruch HaShulchan, Achar kach oimrim Uvalet Zion goyel. It means after Lam Natsech, we say Uvalet Zion. Kederech Shomer Yeshaya Novi in Perek Nun Tes, Yavo Kanar Tsar, Uvalet Zion goel. Tsaris will come like a river, and then a redeemer will come to Zion. V'gam anachnu achar yancha b'yom tzara, after the Lam Natseach, which is talking about the Yom Tzara, oimrim uvalet Zion goyel. V'achar kach oimrim pasuk v'ani zois brisi, I am your covenant. Shagam Yishaya Amru Achar HaPasuk Uvalet Zion. That also follows the Yeshaya Navi after Perek Nun Tes. Kloimar Shelo tifachet shemirov hatzoros tishtach Torah Yisrael. We shouldn't have a fear because all the tzaros Klal Yisrael have been through, Torah is going to be forgotten. Lochein lo yamush mipicha. It's not going to happen. That's why in Uvalet Zion it says it's not going to. Torah is not going to leave your mouth. Zerina Bachush says the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan passed away, I think, 1910, around that time. So he was operative in the 20th century. He says we see with our own senses. Shachar Churban Bayis Beis Hamikdash. Sharoimim Gozru Aleinu Gzeres Kashos. The Romans decreed severe decrees. Va'az Adarab Nizchazka Torah Bizman HaTanar V'Meron. Dafka at that time is when the Mishnayos were written. The Tanaim and the Maroim were at their greatest power at that time. Achar kach oimrim v'ata kodesh. V'zeh kedusha desidra. Ve'ein muvan mashayich zeh lebitul haklala. Now, how does we learned when we talked about Uvalet Zion that reciting this kedusha desidra gets rid of the curse that's mentioned in Gemara Sota. Amnam nirali da'in kenu. So the Aruch HaShulchan is going to explain. Dinei b'midrash shevenu b'sif gimel omer yancha Hashem b'yom tzara zeh she'omer hakasuv yikra'eni ve'anenu imo anochi v'tzara. You'll call out to me, I will answer, and I will be with you in the tzara. Omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'shas shemagot tzar Yisrael. When tzars come to Yisrael, ve'hem avakshim osi, and they turn to me, ishtatfu kvoti imahem. I will participate with them. Ani oneosam. I will answer them. Shenemar yikraeni v'nehu. They will call out to me and I will answer. Emasai ki imo anochi b'tzara, because I'm with them b'tzara. Mashali isha ubra, like a pregnant woman. Shayla kas im imo, who was angry with her mother. V'alsa imo lamalo. So I guess the mother is helping her during childbirth, but she screams at her, so the mother leaves. So the lady who's in childbirth is screaming from the bottom. But the mother hears it from above. And so the mother shouts with the daughter. Even though I'm angry with her, I can't withstand the suffering that the screams. Tzaras bita tzarasima. The tzara of the daughter is the tzara of the mother. So the way to get out of our tzaras is to have HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself participate with our tzara. The Gam B'Gemara Amru Kein Kol Meshativ Sheshamayim Tzaro Kotel Lo Parnasoso. Whoever adds the name of Hashem with his davening, his parnasa will be doubled. So if we are cursed, this palanu lo yizbarach, and we daven to him, we have him a partner. We have Hashem with a partner in our tzaras and our tzar. Kloimar shelo yizbarach magiat tzar kivyochel Shalom Molei Kol Artz Kvodo. In a sense, some of the tzar goes to Hashem because we say Molei Kol is kavod fills the whole universe. Vatayim Kvodo Nikr Klal, and because of tsaros, we don't see his honor. Umitztarim ala Eider, so we are upset about the absence of the kavod. Limud Torah Shazer Kosim Chosu Yisbarach. There's lack of Torah learning. Lazo Amri Hashem Yimlach Lolam Voed. That's why the last part of the Kedusha de Siddur, we say Hashem Yimlach Lolam Voed. Klomar, Masai Yiskalem Malchuso Yisbarach. We're waiting for Hashem to reveal his kingship. And then Oimrim Yiskadal Amen Yesh Me'Rabba Shezek Kulabon Al Golus Ashchina. The fact that we say Yesh Me'Rabba is because the Shechina itself is in exile. So this is like Hashem shouting in parallel to us. So it's like we shout, he shouts. He removes the curse from us and he gives us parnas. So that's the Aruch HaShulchan. Let us pray that Hashem listens to our tefillahs of Lam Natzech about the Aruch HaShulchan has explained them, puts an end to our personal communal suffering, and brings redemption to our people speedily in our day. Wow, what timing. So I'm sorry, I sent in the email, I didn't realize. So we'll start Hilchos Kaddish next week. Any questions, comments, he'aros? Okay, Daf Yomi tomorrow is at 8. The Novi Shir is at 8, Motzei Shabbos. No, this is not the same group.
No.
Okay,
Okay.
tomorrow 8 o'clock. Shkoyach, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.